The
This
fluorescent
clause
lights
here
hummed
is the
overhead
issue.
as Marcus
What
Chen
does
sat
it mean
alone
for
in the
us?
hospital
It
waiting
could
room,
change
his
everything.
6-year-old daughter's toy rabbit clutched in his trembling hands. The oncologist had called him in for Lily's test results, the ones that would determine if the experimental treatment had worked, if his little girl would get to see her 7th birthday. His phone buzzed with messages from his boss, barely concealed threats about missing another shift. Marcus's hands shook as he typed back a resignation he couldn't afford to send. He was alone. Completely, devastatingly alone. No family within 3,000 miles, no partner to share this crushing weight, just a single father and the very real possibility that his entire world was about to shatter. He didn't notice the woman who entered the waiting room until she sat down beside him. She wore an expensive charcoal suit that screamed boardroom rather than hospital corridor, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. Marcus glanced at her briefly, probably some corporate type squeezing in a quick checkup between meetings, then returned his gaze to the sterile floor tiles he'd been counting for the past 40 minutes. Waiting for someone. Her voice was softer than he expected. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak without his voice breaking. "Me too," she said quietly. Then, after a pause, "You're here alone." He managed a tight smile. "Story of my life lately." The words came out more bitter than he intended. "Sorry. It's been a rough few months." "Don't apologize." She extended her hand. "Victoria." Marcus. Her handshake was firm, confident, everything he wasn't feeling right now. They sat in silence for a few minutes before Victoria spoke again. "I'm waiting for my mother's surgeon. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They gave her 6 months, but she's stubborn. It's been 8. She smiled, but Marcus could see the fear beneath it. "I flew in from New York this morning. Rearranged everything. My assistant thinks I've lost my mind." "I'm sorry," Marcus said, meaning it. Somehow knowing he wasn't the only one drowning in this sterile purgatory made it slightly more bearable. "What about you?" "My daughter, Lily. She's 6. Leukemia." The words still felt like broken glass in his mouth. "This is the big one, the test results that tell us if the treatment worked or if we need to start talking about other options." Victoria's expression shifted, professional composure cracking just enough to show genuine compassion. "And you're doing this alone." Her mom left when Lily was diagnosed. "Couldn't handle it." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Turns out, for better or worse, has some fine print I missed." Before Victoria could respond, a nurse appeared. "Mr. Chen, Dr. Morrison is running about 20 minutes behind. There's been an emergency case. Also, I need to inform you that we've had to move you to the family consultation room, hospital policy for certain types of results meetings." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Family consultation room. That wasn't good. That was the room with the tissue boxes and the grief counselor on speed dial. The nurse continued, "I should mention, due to the sensitive nature of the consultation, only immediate family members are permitted. Your wife or partner can accompany you, but otherwise." "He doesn't have anyone," Victoria interrupted sharply. "That's ridiculous. He shouldn't have to hear this alone." The nurse looked sympathetic but unmoved. "I understand, but it's hospital policy. Privacy regulations are very strict about." "I'm his partner." Victoria stood up, her CEO voice fully activated, the kind of voice that made boardrooms fall silent. "We've been together for 3 years. I am absolutely coming into that room with him." Marcus stared at her, stunned. The nurse glanced between them, clearly skeptical. Marcus knew how it looked, this polished executive and him in his wrinkled Target jeans and a shirt that hadn't seen an iron in weeks. Victoria must have sensed the hesitation because she reached down and took Marcus's hand, her grip warm and surprisingly gentle. "Listen, I flew across the country to be here for this. For him. For Lily. I'm not waiting outside while the father of my child, while my partner goes through this alone. That's not happening." The nurse's expression softened slightly. "I'll need to note it in the file. Names. Victoria Chen," she said without missing a beat, squeezing Marcus's hand as if warning him to play along. The nurse nodded and walked away, leaving them standing there, hands still clasped. "Why did you?" Marcus started. "Because no one should have to hear that kind of news alone," Victoria whispered fiercely. "And because sometimes rules are less important than being human." She sat back down, pulling him with her. "Besides, you can return the favor when my mother's surgeon comes out. I could use the moral support too." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, some wall he'd built up over months of fighting this battle solo. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're a father who showed up. Who's sitting here terrified but present anyway. That's more than a lot of people manage. She smiled sadly. My father left when my sister got sick. Just couldn't handle watching her suffer. My mother never forgave him. I never forgave him. So when I see someone who stays. She trailed off, swallowing hard. You stay. That matters. They talked while they waited. Victoria told him about her mother, a fierce retired teacher who'd built a nonprofit for underprivileged kids and was currently terrorizing the oncology nurses with demands for better food options. Marcus found himself telling her about Lily, how she still believed in magic, how she'd asked him if the chemotherapy would make her a superhero since it was giving her special medicine powers, how she kept a gratitude journal where every single entry mentioned him, even on the days when he'd snapped from exhaustion or worry. She sounds extraordinary, Victoria said. She is. She's everything. Marcus's voice cracked. I can't lose her. I just can't. Mr. Chen, we're ready for you. A different nurse stood in the doorway, her expression neutral and professional, too professional, revealing nothing. Marcus stood, his legs unsteady. Victoria rose with him, her hand finding his again. They walked down the corridor together, strangers who'd become something else in the span of an hour, allies, maybe, or witnesses to each other's worst fears. The consultation room was exactly as Marcus had imagined, soft lighting, comfortable chairs, a box of tissues prominently displayed. Dr. Morrison stood as they entered, a folder in his hands. Mr. Chen, Ms. He glanced at Victoria. Chen, she supplied smoothly. Victoria Chen. The doctor nodded and gestured for them to sit. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Victoria's hand was still in his, anchoring him to the moment. I'll get straight to it, drive. Morrison said. Lily's latest scans and blood work show. He paused, and Marcus felt his entire world hanging in that space between words. Complete remission. The leukemia is undetectable. She's responded better than we could have hoped. The room tilted. Marcus heard the words but couldn't process them. Couldn't. She's okay. His voice came out as a whisper. She's really okay. She'll need monitoring, continued treatment protocols, but yes. Your daughter is going to be fine, Mr. Chen. Marcus buried his face in his hands and wept. Great, shaking sobs that came from somewhere so deep he thought they might turn him inside out. He felt Victoria's arm around his shoulders, heard her own quiet tears, this stranger who'd chosen to share his darkest moment and was now here for the light breaking through. When he finally looked up, drive. Morrison was smiling, a real smile, warm and genuine. She's been asking for you. Said to tell you that her superhero powers worked. Marcus laughed through his tears. Can I see her? Of course. He stood, then turned to Victoria. I don't know how to thank you. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. She wiped her own eyes, mascara slightly smudged. And Marcus, take her somewhere special when she's cleared to leave. Make memories. That's what matters. They exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch, both knowing they probably wouldn't but needing the connection anyway. As Marcus headed toward Lily's room, Victoria called out, Hey, husband. He turned back. She's lucky to have you. 2 months later, Marcus received an envelope at his new apartment, the bigger one he'd been able to afford after the promotion that came with his new job at a company that valued family leave. Inside was a check with a note in elegant handwriting, for Lily's college fund. Or Disneyland. Whichever needs it more. V. The amount made him sit down hard. Attached was a business card. Victoria Martinez, CEO, Martinez & Associates. And at the bottom, in smaller letters, P.S. My mother asked me to tell you she's in remission too. Stubborn runs in the family. Thanks for reminding me that showing up is what counts. Marcus hung the card on his refrigerator, next to Lily's latest drawing, a picture of her as a superhero, cape flying, holding her father's hand. Sometimes, he thought, the real superheroes are the ones who see someone drowning and jump in without hesitation. The ones who pretend to be family because family isn't just blood, it's who shows up when the world is ending and stays until dawn breaks. He picked up his phone and texted Victoria a photo of the drawing. Her reply came minutes later, frame that. It's your origin story too. And for the first time in months, Marcus Chen believed in magic again.